Yeah, I'm Tim Sheen from the Chamber. Couldn't we met you once before?
Maybe.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe. I'm glad we had that same.
Yeah, maybe. So, are there waters somewhere?
Yes, I've got plenty. Yes.
Okay,
So I've got 2 microphones here. These are just for that sound system.
Okay.
We do have another one up there. If that doesn't work, we'll pass the third one around. But Mark will be talking from that.
Okay. Well, we can work it out.
Very
We're
good.
civil.
Yeah, we've done this before. A few times.
You guys are like my second family now. It's just a good time with you.
Yeah.
Talking about that.
Yeah, if I hear your intro,
I got
You got one? Okay.
Well, I got to change it up because we only have a minute this time. So,
Mr. Sheen?
Keep fast.
Yeah,
Good to see
1
you.
minute.
boy, it's
Should we wait one more minute?
I wouldn't. We're going to be short time.
I know.
That's up to you. You're the moderator. Yeah.
Who are we missing? Dylan.
One of the incumbents.
Well,
I don't know if we're missing.
that's it. We could be on
No,
the
I
car.
shouldn't say that. Yeah.
It's sort of hard to see everybody here with the lights. Yeah.
When their phone goes off,
I don't,
look
but-
out there and stare.
You might want to get that looked at. The lights are bright.
Well, good evening. Welcome. District 4 House, District 5 Senate, and District 4 Senate and District 5 Senate forums for the upcoming Republican primary election on June 2nd. Let me go through a couple of House rules so everybody's on board. Maybe by the time I'm done, our final fifth candidate for this fall will be here. First off, this is like church. Silence your phones. Last year, somebody's phone went off, and I got to stare at it for almost 2 minutes straight. And even with the lights, I really gave you a stare at it. Please silence your phone. I have silenced my phone. And I've done enough of these where I've had people text me during this. If anybody's listening or thinks about it, please don't text me during the forum. As I mentioned, we'll have 3 forums. We'll go about 75 minutes with this first one, and then we'll be in a 30-minute range with the next 2. The rules were sent to each of the candidates via email with a slight adjustment yesterday afternoon. So let me go through those. And these will be the same rules for all of them, so I'll only go through it once tonight. The chamber picked the seating and how everybody is started. We started with candidate Deutsch to my left is the first person. We'll do candidate intros. They'll get a minute for that. Then we'll move into the question and answer session. And the key here is for the candidates to answer the questions, not ask questions. I'll ask the questions and I'll ask on behalf of the chamber my own research and those questions that we got from people in the community. Next, the candidates will have up to 2 minutes to answer those questions. Hopefully less, because we've got a lot to go through. We've got a lot of topics, but they can go as long as 2 minutes. I'd ask the candidates to stay on the topic of the question. Don't deviate or don't say because I got 30 seconds left. Let me go back and answer that question before. We're going to ask you to stay on the topic of the question. Incumbents have a record. Therefore, the question can seem tough. It's not intended to be. It's their record. It's how they vote. On the other hand, those challengers have no record. So their answers could be tough if you listen to them. So each has a chance to be in a tough spot tonight. We don't intend it to be. We're trying to find out information so you, the voters, know how to vote. And this isn't about the candidates. It's about you, the voters. That's our intention tonight. I may ask a rebuttal question, and they'll have a minute. One or more candidates could have a 1 minute rebuttal. Not all questions will be asked of all candidates. I may ask questions and all 5 of you to answer. I may not. I may switch it around depending on the topic at hand. Repeated violations of the time rule will mean the candidate loses their closing statement. So stick to the timer. Where's our timer? Go ahead, paper. He's going to get some paper. All right. So that's Tim, our chamber exec, will be the timer. Any questions during the forum that aren't obvious, I'll make an on-the-spot call, and hopefully the person wondering about it will agree with the call. So with that, let me ask the candidates and the incumbents, any questions about the rules for tonight's board?
Mark, will the timer flash a card? How
Yes,
will we know?
that's why he's going to get paper.
Got it.
So
Sit in the back past the lights.
in lieu of that, I'll be going like this. Hopefully not. So with that, let's go ahead and begin with our candidate introductions. Tell us about yourself and all of that was in the rules. And begin with candidate Fred Deutsch. Fred, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. Are we on? Testing.
Test. Should be on. Hello. Yep, you're
There we go. Okay. Hey, everyone. Great to be here. I'm Fred Deutsch. My wife and I have lived in Watertown since '83, where we practiced chiropractic together in the community. I've given back to Watertown my entire life, Boys and Girls Club Board, Immaculate Conception Parish, 8 years on the Watertown School Board, including board president, and 8 years serving in the South Dakota House. On a more personal level, my dad survived the Holocaust and came here with nothing. He taught me that freedom is fragile, hard work matters, and that service is a calling. The people across District 4 have called and asked me to run again. They want someone who shares their values and knows how to actually get things done in Pierre. I'd be honored to, again, earn your vote on June 2nd.
Thank you, candidate. Candidate Uniberg.
Good evening. My name is Gary Uniberg. I'm your bold and visionary candidate. Worked in the technology world. I've worked primarily as a millwright, servicing our nuclear energy fleet across this nation. I've worked and founded a nonprofit that serves our young people to inspire excellence through the gospel of Jesus Christ, to teach welding, Christian discipleship, and to help our young people to be able to find their path. That work is the most satisfying work that I've done. I've had several people ask me to run for office. The main goal that I can offer is that visionary, bold capability to build new pathways for our nation, for our state, and to help us grow economically in a way that suits our communities.
Thank you. Representative Jordan, 1 minute.
Thank you. Just want to give you props for the sound equipment. I have that same speaker. Representative Dylan Jordan, I'm glad to be your constitutional conservative serving District 4. It's been an honor to represent you. I am pro-life, pro-family, pro-First and Second Amendment, pro-property rights, and most of all, pro-freedom. And sorry I was late walking in. I got off work at 4:30, went home and showered, so my hands weren't all orange and didn't smell funny. So sorry about that, but thank you for coming and hosting.
Candidate Cole.
Yeah, Ryan Cole. I live in Milbank, South Dakota. Born and raised there by Rivelo on a farm and ranch. My occupation is I'm a farmer and rancher for the civic volunteer. For about 25 years, I served in the military between the Army National Guard, the Air Force. I was active duty Air Force, and then I spent time in the reserves. So I've been all over the world fighting for our country. And I moved back here. I retired a couple of years ago from the reserves. Why am I running? Number one, after I retired from the reserves, I just felt drawn back to service. This time I want to serve at the state level. Number two, I'd like to bring some civility back to Pierre. I feel like we have representatives that aren't tackling the hard issues, the issues that we need to take care of. We need to take care of the things that are important to South Dakota: infrastructure, schools, making sure that from cradle to grave, we have a good quality of life. Sorry, here you go.
And our timer is right there in the front row. You can see him. He's got a card.
Okay, got it.
Representative Rowe, you have 1 minute.
All right, thanks. And thanks for having us. Watertown Chamber. Looks like Steve Jerns is doing double duty again. Thank you, Steve. I am Kent Rowe. I'm the incumbent for District 4 House Representatives. I'm not going to give my full address. My family's lived here. I think my grandnephew will be 6th or 7th generation on the farm I grew up on, and good for him. Good for them. There's more than one. So anyways, I'm an appraiser. Formerly, I've owned several trucking companies along the way and other various interests that both passed and failed. So, civic and volunteer organizations, I've been pretty involved with for water in the state of South Dakota. I've also been on the church board down here at New Lutheran for several years. I'm on a couple of professional organization boards of directors here in the state of South Dakota, the Professional Appraisers Association of South Dakota, and the American Society of Farm Managers and Rural Appraisers. There's a mouthful. I'll quit.
Thank you for all following the guidelines. Appreciate it. The topics we'll get into today are general topics, kind of potpourri, taxes, to criminal reform and economic development. Let's begin in the general area, in a general philosophical question. We'll begin with Gary, as since we started with Fred on the introductions. How do you decide on an issue? What's better done locally by the cities, schools, and counties versus what's done at the state and a mandate from the state to those entities? So it's a local control versus state issue. I've got some examples. For example, cell phones in schools, which was debated this year. Is that a local or a state issue? And then another one is just up here in Cotton County, which is, of course, a big part of District 4. Digital license plate readers. Should the state get in on that, or is that a local decision? So give me your philosophy on that.
Splendid. Thank you for the question.
2 minutes.
When we talk about local control, obviously the cell phones in the schools is something that we have schools that understand what the situation is locally, what's going on, what the parents' work schedules are, and so on. And so it really needs to be that local control. You know, the state motto is that under God, the people rule. And having that discussion about how we can be able to create more opportunities for us to have the full measure of freedom, to think about the wisdom of our communities, how our communities can be able to work together to find solutions for themselves. When we talk about license plate readers, we read about that and see about that nationwide, about how there's discussions about a number of different. Switch it out. Yep. Thank you. But there's a discussion about a number of different tools that are available and ways that it can be beneficial where it can. It's fascinating living in South Dakota because we really have this strong streak of independence. And that's a precious thing. When we think about South Dakota, so often I see it as a beacon on a hill. We have these other states that are likely to have issues related to, financial insolvency, and cities in some of these coastal areas that are more liberal. And so being able to preserve our local control, the strength of our state, and to be able to help us continue to be that beacon on a hill where we can be able to show what conservative values matter, how we can be able to build that, and to make us more effective.
Representative Jordan, local control, the two examples being cell phones, which you debated this year, and recently the digital license plates here in Cotton County. Local issue, state issue.
The cell phone issue, I was against and fought passionately against that bill because that is a local control issue, including local control of the parents or the teachers in the classroom, allowing it in that particular classroom. Peers should not be dictating to schools what to do there. As far as the cameras, I am against those, and I would not vote for any county commissioner that voted for that ever again. And as far as the state banning it, gets to the question about red stoplight cameras if you don't stop at a red light in Sioux Falls, which I remember South Dakota sued Iowa, and there's a big controversy because they sent them to out of staters and or tickets around Sioux City for speeding and all that. And South Dakota said they would not enforce that. So I think to go forward with South Dakota's principles, I don't think that we should have entrapment like that. So I'd be against those. Because I think you should have the freedom, and you are guilty or innocent until proven guilty. And I don't think having cameras around is something we should do.
Question, Paulo. Where do you see the local versus the state? I didn't mean to just go on those two issues, but what's your philosophy? What belongs at the state? What's local?
Well, there's local school boards. There are teachers, there are principals, there are city councilmen, school boards. A lot of those do it. And it's different. Each branch of government has different duties, where the state government can do a little more, but the true local control is what we want to do as individuals, and that it expands a little bit with the city and school boards, which they should have the most control. The more control you have local, the better.
Ryan, I understand the question.
Yes. So are we addressing those two issues or are those examples?
Just example.
Okay. So
I'm after philosophical.
philosophical. So as according to Aristotle, no. Philosophically, anything we can do locally, I think we can do more efficiently. If you can get it to the local level, people are more conscious of where they're spending their money, and they're spending it in the places that are most needed. So local control is huge. It also allows communities to choose where they want to go, what works for them, and where they want to go. However, regarding the state should be able to partner with local communities and make sure that the laws and regulations help communities get to where they need to be and provide some resources if necessary, or guidance or infrastructure support to make sure that our communities can succeed. So most things, especially economically, should be determined locally. Of course, if they're crossing county lines, the state should have a little input on that. So that's my philosophical belief on that.
Representative Rowe, 2 minutes.
On the cell phones in schools, I voted for that because it was put to me that state enforcement of that is going to be the equivalent of policing whether or not you tear the mattress tags off of your mattresses. Okay. It was asked for by some of the school districts to kind of give them a little backstop to build from. I don't think it's a real intrusion of the child's privacy to have their cell phone perhaps contained. I think we've all seen, Melissa and I, we go out to eat once in a while, and I always stand around to look and see who's all on their cell phones. And it's kind of sad when you look around and you see a family of 5 sitting there with 5 faces stuck on a screen. I'm not a big fan of that. Regarding the license plate readers, this is something I've dealt with for 30 years in the transportation industry on the East Coast. They were taking pictures of us all the time. I paid fines from the state of Iowa for speeding and red lights both. Obviously, that's a federal thing. So I don't know if there's highway funding tied to those mandates or not. I trust the county commission in their judgment, as I think most county commissions should be respected. I think the state's position is to make a policy that works across the board, that can be fine-tuned for the locality. And that's the way our government's always worked. You can't supersede federal law or state law if you're the lesser authority, but you can build upon that rule set and make it fit the locality, and that's the role of counties and townships and municipalities.
Okay, we'll pass it mic back in case that one doesn't work. Fred, the same question.
Thank you. Philosophically, I think the state should be involved in developing policy when the issue is of such major importance that there can be no deviation locally. And I think that should happen very rarely. In fact, the reason that I initially ran for the legislature and left the school board in Watertown was because I was just so fed up with the state legislature stomping on us, taking away our rights. And so what are examples, and I'll just speak from the heart of an old school board member. We've dealt with this in past years where boys want to go in girls' locker rooms. Well, not the hell under my watch. That's a state issue. That should not be decided community by community. Similarly, we want to have standard graduation requirements. We want every child that goes to public school to have mastered the same set of requirements. Now, that's as opposed to school boards creating curricula, setting up textbooks and classwork. That's what the school board does. That's what's done locally. So the local work is essential for each community, and it helps define the community. And the closer the people are, the people, the closer you are to the decision makers who you elect on boards, the better.
Thank you. Next question under the general category is legislator effectiveness. We're going to start with you, Representative Wood. You are a member of the Freedom Caucus, right?
Yep.
A recent opinion column by South Dakota Searchlight indicated you were 1 for 8 as a bill sponsor. One of your 8 bills made it out of the House. I think that's right. Do you agree with that number?
Yeah.
Why were you so ineffective getting your bills, your sponsored bills, out of the House? And in particular, where your party dominates the House. And I guess the question is how should the District 4 voters account for that as ineffective or effective?
Well, first comes first, I did not campaign on bringing you a bunch of new rules. That's kind of a silly way if you believe in limited government to say we're going to pass 200 more laws every year is kind of silly. So fundamentally, I just disagree with that statement. They went through the process and go, we win some, we lose some. As far as effectiveness, I've read that article. That article is laughable. So it's whatever. If you look at my voting record, I am tied for the most conservative legislator in the state, and I represent the core values of the people that elected me. And that's what I focus on and will continue to do so.
Candidate Cole, I'd like it to not clap so we can move on. Okay? Thank you. Candidate Cole is a new member trying to be a legislator. How do you want the District 4 voters to measure your effectiveness as a legislator? What bar should they hold you to?
Yeah, and I do think it's important if you're bringing a bill. So my goal is if I bring a bill, you need to do the back work. You need to talk to both people that are proponents and opponents, and you need to get the full gauge of what's going on. I feel like some of the bills that have been thrown up, because we had a ton of new bill suggestions thrown out this last year. I think I'm not even sure the number. It was one of the highest in several years. Those really need to be pared down, and in order to get something passed, you need to kind of, as my old boss used to say, walk the dog on it, right? You need to put in the time before you propose it. You need to look at all the potential issues, all the pitfalls, and you need to make sure that you have a sound argument to get it through. And you need to build that support. So I would love to be judged on the bills I bring forward and the bills that I bring to fruition. And I think that's a very fair way to determine if you're succeeding in bringing forth things for District 4.
Thank you. Representative Roll, a little twist. Again, you have a record. You're an incumbent. I couldn't find your vote tally. You might be able to tell me, which I'd be interested in knowing. But tell me, what should D4 voters measure for your effectiveness? And I'd like you to comment on one particular bill you spent an incredible amount of time that we ought to talk about tonight, which is data centers. Maybe you might want to comment about that, as well as how you should be measured by your District 4 voters as being an effective legislator. 2 minutes.
Well, I'll start at the end first. I was 2 for 4.
I knew you would.
I was 2 for 4 because that's the easy part. 1026 and 1005 both failed. One failed. They both failed in committee. 1188 and 1189 both passed. One of them passed without a no vote. So I'd say I'm a little better than 50-50. My voting record is online at kentroforhouse.com. I think I'm the only candidate who's put my entire voting history up for a look. And if you don't trust mine, you can always go to sdlegislature.com and pick your way through. Either way, you'll discover my voting record. I think what I saw this year in Pierre was the State Affairs Committee grabbed everything that they wanted and killed dead. including my 1005 bill. That was a tax bill. I'm on the tax committee. Leadership just said, no, this is a bad bill. We're going to take it into committee and kill it. So I was pretty let down with that. I think that show was very revealing how leadership failed almost completely across the board this year out in Pierre. There were good days, but you know, they were campaigning, same as all five of us are. On the data center legislation, South Dakota has 80 plus sales tax exemptions, permanent sales tax exemptions in place already. It's not a new tool. It's an existing tool, and we don't do it because we're nice. We do it because they work and because we have to stay competitive. As a one state of 50, we have to stay competitive, and we have to kind of honor our neighbors through being competitive, keeping them honest, but also understanding the importance of those tools.
I'll pass the mic down. Fred, the question is a challenger. How do you want the D4 voters to measure your effectiveness as the legislators?
Well, that's a great question. Well, first, I do have a record also that people can look at online. I've passed 19 bills over my 8 years, which I think is more than everyone else. I got a little excited there. Now my mic has gone out. I think it's shorted.
Goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Testing.
Try this one. Test. Here.
Test. Okay. Did you get that on camera? So 19 bills, more than all of the other candidates together. How I want the folks in D4 to remember me if they send me back to Pierre is that I worked hard. I listened hard. I think being a good legislator is about listening. Number one, listen, and then develop, as Ryan said, develop those collaborations, do the prep work. That's what I've always done is the prep work, talk to people, both sides, and then you can advance your bill. I want to be known as a workhorse, not a show horse. And essentially that's what I've been all of my 8 years as a workhorse. So if I can be thought of as a person that does the work of District 4 on the issues that are important to District 4, I'd be grateful.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to question number 3, and that's we start.
Do I get to answer?
You got to give Gary.
Gary,
You got one more.
Yep, one more. This is your role, you guys. Go ahead.
Teamwork.
2 minutes.
So to judge my work in District 4, how are we serving? What are the areas that we're looking at? I've been involved in our legislative process in a number of different settings. I've worked to be able to advocate for and against different bills. And so I've had times where we've gone in and there was a bill that I considered to be ill-considered. Very much my mission is to be able to create collaboration. My tagline is to build prosperity through partnership. And so often I've gone into areas that could be very, very contentious, and I end up making friends with everybody and bringing everybody together and having these conversations afterwards. There was a bill last year that a legislator from West River had brought forward that just didn't work well. And we were able to put together a coalition of people to come together to talk, share what our experience was, and then afterwards actually had good conversation and good friendship with that legislator. And so my mission is very much to be able to listen, to be able to identify what's going on in our community, to be able to think about innovative solutions. One of the innovative solutions that I do have out there is something called the Dakota Bridge Cooperative. And so there's different ways that we can be able to think about what the role of government is, how we can be able to build workforce economic development. At the end of the day, it's what is going on in your life. Do you have money to be able to grow your family? Do you have the opportunity to be able to grow your community? Do you feel safe in your home? Do you feel safe in your community? So much of this is what my focus is on as your candidate for District 4.
Thank you. I apologize. All right, we move on to the next question, which is going to go to candidate Cole. This is a lightning round question. So it's a yes or no answer. Anything more, I'll cut you off. We heard a lot about SB 245. We're hearing a lot in the primary race. I can't seem to get it off my TV, and my wife is really tired of it. A recent South News Watch poll found 49% of South Dakotans opposed to the bill. So the lightning round question is simply yes or no. Did you, or would you, as a challenge, support using the end of the temporary sales tax increase to 4.5% or at 4.5% for property tax reductions for owner occupied homes? Yes or no?
No.
Ken?
I voted no.
Fred?
Yes.
Yes. Gary?
No.
No.
I voted yes.
Okay. For those that voted no, starting back with Ryan, what would you do with that 3% increase that'll go into effect next year, knowing that the legislature tried to pull it back and it failed?
Yeah. So,
It'd be a 1 minute.
okay. So with that 3%, we should actually be meeting our constitutional obligations to supporting our teachers, doing the increase of the big three: teachers, medical care workers. That's why we were in such of a budget shortfall to start with. Kind of going back, the reason we ended up with that reduction is there was a move to get rid of, get rid of sales tax on groceries, which I think was a good idea. It needed to be pared down a little bit, but when that didn't work, the legislature and the governor at the time just looked for a quick a quick win, and that's why we had that reduction, and that's why part of the reason we are in such of a budget crunch right now. So there we go.
You voted no.
I voted against it. Senate Bill 245. Again, another failure in leadership. They bypassed the tax committee, took it straight to the floor. You should check out who that leadership was. It came at us. It's half baked. Yeah, it gives property tax relief proportionally across the board. So a person paying $5,000 a year in property tax is going to get the same break as some guy paying $1,200 or $1,500. I think that money would have been better spent. A much better plan would have been to proportion it down to the folks that it would have impacted, folks buying food and necessities every day. 245 also ignores tenants. 40% of the people who live in South Dakota are tenants. It ignored ag. It ignored commercial. Just a half-baked bill brought running through at us. And Ryan's not wrong when he said there was a real push to just pass something, and passing poor legislation just a poor idea.
Gary, you can tell me twice. Would you voted no or yes? You would have voted no. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And answer the question, which is what would you do if that 10%?
I was having trouble remembering too. I'm a nonprofit leader. We have a challenge of poverty in this state, and the challenge of poverty can be met by government in some ways. And unfortunately, that sometimes can be the only way that we solve it. I have an Instant Pot that got passed back and forth with the house across the street from me for a long time to make sure that folks had food. We don't have and we don't maintain a constitutional republic without good schools. Our education of our young people are our most precious asset. I don't care about anything else we do. Our young people matter more than anything else. Being able to be focused on that, being able to look at long-term solutions to these, because I'm frustrated by property taxes as well. But when we look at it, there's a long-term vision that we have to build, and it's wise, reasons, policymaking that I commit to and that we can be able to bring to peer that will make a difference.
Thank you. Next question. I got on that. Okay. Goes to Representative Roll.
Did you want to say him
You
why?
said yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It was just the no. It was
Yep.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Teamwork. Yeah. All right, Representative Rowe, that's a new question, crime reform. And I looked and couldn't find how you voted on it, so you're going to answer that right now.
Okay.
My Google search and Chat GPT didn't work worth a hoot the last couple of days, but on HB, I should have gone to your website. On HB 1212, which has been a lot in the news lately with multiple letters to the editor in the Watertown Current the past week, called for women who had an abortion to be charged with first-degree murder. How did you vote and why? And any comments on that particular piece of legislation?
I can tell you certainly I voted no on that legislation. I think it is vicious and cruel. You want to hang a murder charge on some gal who's just made probably the most difficult decision of her life, and you want to throw her in prison? I mean, come on, people. We're a compassionate society. We owe it to each other to be compassionate about these things. Abortion is illegal in South Dakota. We've got the most ambitious anti-abortion laws in the whole United States. It's just a real mean, real cruel type of legislation. It just turned my stomach to even listen to the testimony.
Thank you, Fred. In 2027, if elected and a bill like that comes up on the floor, how are you going to vote?
I'm going to vote hell no. Do you want,
That's a no. I'll take it as a
all
no.
right, you want me to expand beyond that?
You can. You got up to 2 minutes. If you don't need
All right.
to, you don't need to.
Okay, so I've been asked what are the biggest differences between myself and the two opponents with a record, and I can say that HB 1212 is the single most significant difference between Rep. Jordan and myself, and he'll tell you why he supports it. I'm past president of South Dakota Right to Life. I represent the state of South Dakota on the National Right to Life Board. It is 100%, I agree with Roe. It is the dumbest bill. You do not put women in jail for up to life for an abortion. You treat them with respect. Most women are traumatized. Many, over 50%, are coerced. That's an established statistical fact. So this is just an ill-conceived bill. And we want to address abortion by shutting off the supply chain. We want to get rid of those little white pills that women can order online from other states or even other countries. And that's in the works right now through the Supreme Court and through Congress. So that's how we address the issue, not by locking women up.
Mega dittos on Fred. I'm against HB 1212. I want to talk about the tragedy that is abortion. When we think about it, it is about
Stick to
the topic you want a little bit more.
12 next year, how you're going to vote. You can certainly tell us why, but don't make this an abortion answer. Okay?
Well, yeah, I mean, ultimately, once we get to that point where somebody's having an abortion, there's so many other failures that have happened. We think about the idea of the preciousness of life, the preciousness of sex, about what a relationship should be, about marriage, what marriage is and what it should be. And so when we think about abortion, these are critical issues, but putting someone in prison for this, there is a tragedy that has occurred. That tragedy is heartbreaking. It is something that we need to be present. We need to really pray to be able to reduce that. But so much of it's about looking at what the upstream issues are that cause it. Pornography, promiscuity. We want to focus on how we can build that faith within our young people, that they understand that they are precious, their relationships are precious, and how we can be able to carry that, lift that, and help South Dakota understand that.
Representative Jordan, you were one of the sponsors and voted for the bill as noted in committee. If elected, will you bring this bill back next year?
I'm not 100%, but I am sorry that I'm the only one up here that is for equal justice under the law. So abortion is one of the only laws on the books that is illegal, but if you do it, nothing happens. Under our current laws, abortion has gone up over 30% in South Dakota since Roe versus Wade alone. What we're doing is not working. Not every woman would go to prison because there are several steps in the court system for that to happen. That is just talking points and straw man arguments. But I am sorry that no one else is for equal protection under the law.
Challenger Cole, a bill like that comes before you in 2027. How are you going to vote?
I would vote no. If you, I reflect upon the time that a woman was brought before Jesus for adultery. And one thing that most people kind of forget about that is there was only a woman brought before him. And if she was caught in the act of adultery, there should have been another person there. So I believe that we need, as a Christian nation, to uphold or to show some grace and some mercy. I believe that's what Jesus would do in that situation. And so that's what I would try to do that.
I think that's it. Let's go back to Fred. This is a lightning round question, Fred, so it's a yes or no answer, which you almost did last time. This time you have to. As a District 4 challenger, have you met with any of our local economic development officials? I'm in the topic of economic development now. At the chamber offices or in Millbank or the Watertown Development? Have you met with any of them?
Yes.
Gary, have you?
In Clear Lake.
In Clear Lake?
Yeah.
Representative Jordan?
Not this last year.
Yes, in Clear Lake and in Millbank.
I've spent a lot of time with economic developers in the past 2 weeks in the last year.
Okay. HB 12, we're going to take this one now to Gary. HB 1212 authorizes new trade center for the District 4's largest college that we have, LATC. But it failed to pass, needed supermajority, as I understand it. Would you have supported that bill if you were in peer? And if it comes back next year and you're elected, will you support building that advanced trade center for LATC?
I believe it was 2 weeks ago, I met with Cam Corey, who is the vice president of Lake Area Technical College, as well as with Jennifer Severson and a gentleman whose name I forget, but about some of the projects that I have under development. Education is critical. Being able to build Lake Area Technical College and the technical colleges across the state is a critical aspect, especially with trades careers. When we look at the opportunity we have right now in South Dakota, we have $1.7 billion worth of power generation scheduled for installation, which is part of the topic that I was there to talk to Mr. Corey about. And we have this change that's coming for our state. We have to make sure that our people are working on these jobs, make sure that that would be something that would pass, that we'd be able to find that supermajority, being able to have that team together so that we can have a good outcome.
Representative Jordan, you voted no on the floor. I don't know how you do. Was it in your committee? I don't know. I don't know.
No.
Yeah. Tell me if you would, the bill comes back, which given it almost had a supermajority, it may very well. Where do you stand on supporting that LATC trade center?
I would have to look at what the budget is next year, but the reason I voted no is because everyone always, if you look at the voting records, all the conservatives vote against every school that's not in their home district, but vote for the ones that are in their district. And I thought it would be inconsistent for me to just cave because it's not my, or it's my hometown. Also, one of the programs was HVAC. If you want a job, get HVAC. I've know a lot of people in HVAC. Go apply for a job in HVAC. So Lake area gets a decent amount of funding and a good amount of funding. And I'm sorry it didn't pass this year, but sometimes that happens.
I got to do a follow up. I make sure I understand it. You voted not for District 4, but with a conservative group, what, Freedom Caucus, and that's who you voted for first over the K4 LATC.
I voted my principles.
Okay. Representative Cole, if you have that bill come up.
Well, thanks for the promotion. So I would vote yes. Lake area is such an amazing gem, and although it is in District 5 and District 4 are very, very closely connected. And anything we can do to get another opportunity for our kids to get education in this area increases the chances that they will stay here. And I tell people the lens I'm going to look at everything through is it will more likely keep our kids here or less likely, because our number one goal should be keeping kids here.
Representative Rowe, I believe you voted for it. Will you bring it back next year? Will you vote for it again next year?
I'll have to fight Matt Roby to bring it back next year because you got Matt and Glenn here in town, and they're both pretty dang good rock stars. I voted for every tech ed funding measure that was brought, and I voted to support our colleges too. I think it's critical that we have those chances, those availabilities here in the state of South Dakota. We got the School of Mines out in Rapid City. It's one of the top 5 engineering universities in the nation. That's saying something. We can't walk away from that. We've got a committed staff there. Uh, it's world renowned engineering school. But back to Lake Area, uh, I spoke with the president over there, President Sanderson, quite extensively one day about these programs. My focus was more on the water and wastewater career development paths maybe that could be offered over there, and tried to help her make a few connections within that industry. I'm very familiar with it. The other thing too, we've got a job placement of nearly 100% rolling out of the Lake area. It speaks volumes to the quality of the staff, the quality of the teachers, the quality of the education. For the life of me, I cannot understand why anyone would vote against funding new programs, especially when there was so much local support. The local donations were 17 million, something like that. It was huge. All we had to do as a state was compliment it a little bit, and we've got the money, we've got the staff, we've got the school. It was just an incredibly solid bill. Sorry to see it fail. One quick note: there were 5 absent on the day of that vote. Passed. It failed 43-22. I can tell you with confidence that had 4 of those 5 been present, that money would have been passed.
Fred, pass the mic down. As a challenger, you understand the question.
Sure. Thank you. It's a little ironic. It was just a couple of days ago that Lake Area Tech celebrated the governor's luncheon to provide fundraising efforts for new students to raise scholarships. And the 4th floor of Lake Area Tech was packed. And it was so good to see that the community comes out year after year after year and supports Lake Area Tech, because it is our jewel. It is our economic engine, not just for District 5, but for District 4, the surrounding communities, surrounding counties. Do you know that 1 out of 3 graduates stay in District 4 or 5? 99% of graduates get a job out of Lake Area Tech. It is an amazing institute. And would I support it? Of course I would. I can't fathom not supporting it. When you go to the legislature, you have a couple of different hats that you wear. And one is that you wear a hat that you are an advocate for South Dakota. But you also wear another hat that you are an advocate for District 4, in my case. And what is more important than having a good opportunity to grow and expand our education, to keep our children here? So, yes, I would absolutely support it if it came back next year.
Thank you. Another economic development question. This was with Representative Jordan. District 4 is a huge player in ethanol. 2 production plants, corn all over the counties, all coming into the plants. And it's a big deal. And assuming you support ethanol, which you can answer that as part of the question, why hasn't South Dakota and the legislature embraced E15 and passed legislation in support of E15 like Minnesota, Nebraska, and Iowa?
Ethanol is a big part of the South Dakota economy, and especially District 4's economy. So that would be good if we could do that. As far as supporting ethanol, again, I will not do anything to hurt ethanol.
Candidate Cole, your position on ethanol, and why haven't we passed the E15 bill in our state?
So I can't really tell you why we haven't passed an E15 bill. I can tell you I am a firm supporter of ethanol. As a farmer, I can tell you, if you look at a map of corn basis prices, which is what it is below or above Chicago market, you can look at that map and look at the basis, and you can pick out where ethanol plants are, because ethanol is so huge in increasing the price of corn and getting a better deal for our farmers. Plus, we get the byproducts of distillers grain that is amazing feed for cattle. I think we ought to do more. I think it was Nebraska the state of Nebraska actually passed a bill that all state vehicles would run on E30. They did an experiment. They led the way with that, and they found you need to look it up. It was great results, and I would actually advocate that because we need to go above E15. We should be looking at E30 and perhaps beyond. And the other thing I'll say is I spent a year in Iraq, and I know I was told that I was there because of nation building, but I was there because of oil. Ethanol gives us another option. It gets us off being globally dependent on a commodity that crazy people in a country that most people can't find on a map can disrupt oil for months. So yes, I'm a big supporter of E15. Thank you.
Representative Rule, 2 minutes.
On the E15 question, I've talked with Senator Thune and Senator Rounds and also Congressman Johnson about this very thing. Why can't we get the inclusion rate in gasoline of ethanol increased to E15? I think it's a great market, and they're working on it. There are EPA rules. We can stand here and we can promote it all night long, and that's very important. At the end of the day, I think that's probably going to be a federal decision. But again, if you know anybody in the ethanol industry or any corn farmer, tell them to call one of them three or call all three and promote this. It's critically important that our voices are heard. The ethanol market drives the local corn industry. My parents are here tonight. They were pretty. They had meetings in their own house over this establishing Glacial Lakes Energy, and I think that everyone knows all of that. And the other thing that we need to remember is ethanol production from corn isn't limited to strictly ethanol. We've got other byproducts that are marketable, that have markets, and we're not realizing the full value out of our kernel of corn, whether it's feeding cattle or making ethanol or throwing on a train and shipping it overseas. The ethanol guys do a fantastic job, and I think we owe them a lot of respect. And I know that they're doing everything that they can to increase the value of corn in northeastern South Dakota.
Quick follow-up. I know it's a federal issue, E15, you hit it, I spoke to it very well. Is there anything more our state can do to support the D4 producers and ethanol plants? I see E88 all over Iowa, Nebraska, and Minnesota, and I don't see it all over South Dakota.
Well, I think I've got a sister who's of that. So anybody who's dealt with prescriptions understands off-label use. So I drive a diesel pickup. When I own a gas car, I burn E85 almost year round. Now that's a gamble I took on my own. I'm not encouraging you to do it and endanger your potential warranty. But there's a lot of utility in corn, and especially when you amplify it through the ethanol production and all the co-products that go along with it.
Okay, Fred. Ethanol industry and D4 and
Sure. Thank you. Of course, I would support it. And of course, we've heard the answer. It's a federal issue, and that's why it's not come before the state. And I would just add one other little comment. I don't know the extent that ethanol got sidetracked because of this pipeline issue. That was a huge fight. I voted against pipeline, but I just can't help but wonder if that effort wasn't there, if the pipeline issue never arose, maybe there'd be more emphasis on collaboration and coordination between state legislators, the industry, and our federal team.
it's a good question, but as a follow-up, it's dead. Now, how are we going to protect that industry that's in your district?
Oh, you mean the pipeline?
No, the pipeline is dead.
Yes.
But ethanol is not.
No, ethanol is very much alive. And I think we just have to urge our team in Washington and urge the industry to move forward. I don't see it as a big issue for D4 legislators. We don't have the power that we otherwise would.
Candidate Gary?
So it's really interesting. I mean, I'm absolutely for the ethanol industry. We talk about being able to expand E15. I don't have anything to add related to that, but I want to talk about value added agriculture specifically related to ethanol. So when you bring in, and these are rough numbers, when you bring in 3 pounds of 1 pound or 3 pounds of corn, you're going to get 1 pound of distilled brewer grains, 1 pound of ethanol, and 1 pound of CO2. We had a GEVO plant that dealt with sustainable aviation fuel, which we may not use here and we may not see the value of, but in Europe, as well as in the coastal regions, there's a great drive for these green energy fuels. When we look at value added agriculture within our community, there is a tremendous opportunity to be able to find those ways. That GEVO plant went away too, along with the pipeline. That was $1.5 billion. When we look at how we can be able to grow value added agriculture, that's going to be one of my core commitments. For us to be successful in the long term, we need to find these revenue sources. If we can find ways to be able to use that CO2 that comes off of, I mean, this is functionally a waste material right now. It goes into the atmosphere. If we can be able to find ways to be able to use that stream, to be able to have that value stream, to be something that generates revenue for this community, that's my commitment. I've worked in ethanol plants. I've worked in Redfield doing plant maintenance there. They're really nice facilities to work in. It's a good place to have a job. I would go to different facilities to work on pumps and different conveyors and so on. But the commitment and the opportunity here is amazing because we just have so much work in this industry already. We have facilities that are putting off so much CO2. Obviously, the pipeline's not suitable, but being able to find ways we can bring that industry here would be a greenfield as well as a focus.
Okay. Let's move on to a modified lightning round. Let's do that with candidate Cole. Because we've kind of touched on it already. Data centers in South Dakota. Do they have a role to play? And I'll give you a minute to add on to your answer. Yes or no? Would you support data centers in your community and in this state?
Yes, I would. I think we really need to diversify our economy. And I know everybody says ag is king, and that is true. But one of the things I look at is the challenge, the forever long challenge of farming. It says only one farm. So if you have multiple kids, every other child besides the one that won the lottery and got the farm has to find a job somewhere else. We need to look at diversifying. And I think data centers could be a good source. Now, that being said, there needs to be local control as far as at the end of the day, the counties are going to decide if they're going to allow a data center in. But I think we need to be open-minded to this. AI and large centers that hold a lot of data is just something we need in the nation. And it's going to be something in the future. And the other very important aspect is we want these in the United States. We don't want them going to China. We don't want them going to overseas. It's a need that needs to be met. And I think South Dakota can help support that.
Representative Rowe, data centers.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Diversification of the economy, huge. I'm not going to get modest on this answer. I'm not going to say, well, I kind of like them. I kind of don't like them. I don't know. I like them. I think they're economic powerhouses. All we have to do is look at the state of North Dakota. I stay in pretty close contact with some folks up at Ellendale. Applied Digital has put close to $500,000 back into the Ellendale and Dickey County communities direct. That's not through any additional property taxes or sales taxes that they would have generated. The other thing too, there's 40 plus states that already have good tax policy in place. That was the impetus behind my 1005. It's like there's 40 states that are doing this. Why is South Dakota so behind? Why do we have effectively zero data centers in South Dakota? And North Dakota's, they'll be north of 2 gigawatts of data centers. So the state incentives, sales tax exemptions, we've already got 80 plus of them. Why? Again, not because we're nice, but because they work. We've also got GOED, worked extensively with them. We tried and tried to get something palatable to the folks who just, well, I like them, but I don't like them. That expended a lot of energy on that. We've got the RPP program. That's a sales tax rebate. We've got TIFs. Those started in 1978. There's been hundreds of them with one failure, and that may or may not end up being a failure. We don't really know at this point. Uh, it's good work.
Back to Fred.
Thank you. We on? So yes, I would support data centers under the provision of our state motto, under God, the people rule. The people should always have the choice and the decision. And so local control plays a huge role. The efforts need to be fair. And with all due respect to my good friend, Representative Rowe, I would not have voted for his bill because I think 50-year tax exemption is obscene. It needs to be standardized with every other type of benefit or advantage that we give to other industries. So if we can address the concerns, the water, the electricity, every other issue that the people are worried about, boy, the tax revenues are phenomenal. I'd love to see our school districts and our county government benefit from that. So yes, I would support them if they were supported by the people.
Quick follow-up. Would you have amended Representative Rowe's bill to what, 30 years, 20 years, 15 years?
I would have looked, number one, for a different way to entice them to come here. But if this was the only way, I would have looked at what is standard across our state in exemptions. Is it 7 years? Is it 10 years? And I would have provided them the same standard benefit.
Gary.
Does anybody know how much the Texas Office of Economic Development is offering for tax incentives for data centers right now? You know, it's $1 billion. It's $1 billion. We are on the precipice of a change that every major technological innovation that's ever happened could be compressed into what's coming. And we have a choice if we want to take part in it or if we don't. The opportunity is to look at environmental monitoring, to look at utility usage, to look at water usage. These projects cannot impact our local communities in a significant way. I've worked in the nuclear energy industry. The level of monitoring, analysis, data collection that goes on there is the same thing that we can do with our data centers. We can look at our utility usage, how much electricity is utilized by these data centers, ensuring that our communities can be able to ensure that their electrical rates hopefully will go down. There's data. Representative Rose talked about how there's communities where your electrical rate has genuinely gone down because of data centers being there, because it depends on how the load is calculated. So you really want to look at and analyze what this opportunity is and to make sure that South Dakota takes part in it, because there's so many changes. We have Dakota State University that has just a phenomenal AI intelligence school there. We need to keep our young people here. And the pathways that we can do that is through working intelligently with data centers.
Representative Jordan, data centers.
I'm a no to the one in Dual County, but if Sioux Falls wants to add one, go ahead. It's a local control issue. I am against the crony capitalism tax exemptions, and I'm the only candidate up here that has a record that was against that the whole time.
Okay, final question, and I think that goes to Representative Rose. And this deals with the topic of outdoors. And what I'm trying to understand, even though Lake and Pesca and Pelican aren't in your district, the Big Sioux River is, runs smack dab through it. And given that only 27% of our state streams and 17% of our lakes meet the guidelines for fishing, swimming, and aquatic life, how good a job are we doing as a state at the Game Fish and Parks and DNR? And what can we do different to improve those numbers? And what would you sponsor or support?
Well, the game fishing parks, tough nut to crack. They've benefited from a long line of being trustworthy. And I think they still are. District 4 down here with the Barry Little family, they won the Leopold Award for conservation last year. I've worked with conservation, the State Soil Conservation Service, trying to develop a more attractive program for riparian buffers along streams, which would solve a portion of the problem. I don't have a good answer for that. I think riparian buffers are a front end tool that we can use. But then we creep into, hey, does this farmer, is he on board with this? And that's such a big can of worms. It's going to really be hard to develop a good answer that kind of covers all the bases. But, soil conservation is incredibly important in South Dakota. The CRP program does some of that. And I know that there are stream fronting programs where you can enroll riverfront type or stream front stuff, stream front property into different conservation programs that do impact the runoff. And I think that that's obviously our largest cause of headaches that we're getting, whether it's manure or whether it's fertilizer runoff or even herbicide, insecticide type stuff.
Candidate Deutsch.
Thank you. That's a really good question, challenging question. I'll share with you that in 2015 was the initial bill for these buffers that was brought forward by Senator Jim Peterson. I was one of just 3 co-sponsors. The bill did pass and has been muddled over the years, but that was something that was new and different back then. We just need to continue to work on focusing on the efforts to improve our state, improve our world for our children. It is what it is right now, and it's not getting any better. We need to put work into reducing pollution, dealing with the explosion of chemicals in our environment. So I just think that we need to do more. And again, I don't have a great answer for you other than to say I'm very willing and desire to improve our conservation efforts.
Candidate Gary.
Yeah, of course. I'm a big outdoorsman, so fishing and these are areas I love to spend time. When we think about it, these issues of runoff and effluent discharge can be very difficult. It really detracts the water quality. We can look at the Army Corps of Engineers as a source for material and information. There can be farming practices that can be used around these riparian buffers to be able to help us have a better outcome, to be able to reduce the runoff, to be able to look at that. A lot of it is being able to work and listen to stakeholders and identify where these point sources are for the pollution, to be able to have those discussions, and then just to be able to learn what are solutions. Maybe it's different tillage or different methods in the buffer zones around these waters where we can be able to work on that. I have dealt with 40 CFR 112 spill prevention, control, and countermeasures programs before, and had been an administrator of that for a distributed program in northern Nevada. So there's exposure that I've had for dealing with these sorts of issues. And so there's a good opportunity here. Definitely have a depth of knowledge and definitely interested in being able to improve the quality of life in our waterways.
Representative Jordan.
Yeah, thank you. To be honest, I don't have a great answer for that. But in Pierre, the Game Fish and Parks, they talk is the 4th branch of government. We've given away a lot of legislative oversight and taken that away. So I think one issue to address that is to bring some of that power back to the legislature and handle it from there. So us local, we can bring bills and can be more on top of that. One thing on the subject of conservation, I am glad the one bill that I had passed was 1265, which helps second chance flight. That helps the wildlife, which is part of conservation. So I'm glad to be able to do that, or to have been able to help with that. But other than that, you just need the legislature needs to gain back control and take back legislative oversight.
Candidate Cole.
Yeah, I think we've heard some good stuff here. Working with the Corps of Engineers, that would be a phenomenal resource. I normally would never say this, but we could kind of look at what Minnesota's doing a little bit. They are actually doing a pretty good job. So I'm not saying we need to emulate everything they do, but when it comes to that, and finding the stakeholders. Farmers are very interested in conservation too. You have to realize, I mean, we're trying to leave this to our kids. So education and looking at effects of what we're doing, we're equal stakeholders, and we wanna help find the solution. So
Just a quick one, lightning round. Yes or no? Would you allow your kids, grandkids, or your neighbors' kids to swim in the Big Sioux River, starting with Representative Rowe? Yes or no?
Depends on which neighbor.
That's it.
Yes, I've waded through the Big Sioux. It's certainly not a prize-winning swimming destination.
Yes or no, Fred?
No.
No. Gary?
I haven't seen it enough. Probably not.
Depends on what area of the river.
I have not seen it. If you know my children, I think it would just be a struggle to keep them out of it. But yeah, no, I guess.
All right, we're done with our questions. We're at 65 minutes. Now we begin closing comments as outlined in our forum rules. We begin with Fred because that's how it worked out, Fred. You get to start on both sides. 1 minute.
Thank you. Well, there's something that I know after serving 8 years in Pierre, and that is good intentions don't pass bills. Relationships pass bills. Preparation, study, efforts, showing up every single day, working hard. That's what passes bills. I've built those relationships. I have the record. 19 bills I've passed into law. I have a career 100% pro-life voting record with South Dakota Right to Life. No one else at this table has that. Real results for rural health care, a huge issue that we really didn't talk about, a huge issue for our schools and for people of this district. Voting in the primary is a choice, and we're all very different. I'm asking you to choose experience, results, and someone who will fight for District 4 every day. Please vote for Fred Deutsch for District 4. Thank you.
Excellent. South Dakota is poised to spend $2 billion over the next 10 years in creating and building new prisons. That's money that's not going to educate our children. That's money that's not being used to build our workforce, not being used to build our economic development. Our prison population is scheduled to grow 34% over that time period. We have an opportunity in how we address these issues. I have a concept called the Dakota Bridge Co-op that works with our tribal nations to be able to build pathways to these energy projects that are coming up, that works to build CDFIs so as that our tribal nations can be able to participate economically. When we look at the recidivism rate, we read about parole, we read about criminal justice, we read about this all the time. These are communities that can be brought back. When we think about if we have 80 to 100,000 people that aren't fully employed right now, what would South Dakota be if we had full employment in these areas? What would it be if we had an investment in workforce and economic development as opposed to $2 billion in prisons? That's what I'm committed to. That's what I can be able to bring to you, is that visionary, big vision, the execution, the relationships to be able to do that, to create that. And voting for Gary Uterberg would be an investment for long into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you for watching online. Thank you for Steve Jones for coming and broadcasting all these. It has been your honor to be your constitutional conservative representing District 4. I'm not going to promise I'm going to pass a bunch of new laws for you. In fact, I bring a law to repeal a law for every law I bring. I'm not going to promise I'm going to get 100% on right to life scores. 2 bills they rated is one where if you had a petition, you had to get a different petition sheet for every county. So you'd have, for District 4, that'd be 6 petitions for that one petition. And they also bashed you if you didn't vote to regulate beer commercials on football. So I'm not going to promise that. What I will promise you is that I will represent you and your values. The core values of how I'm going to vote doesn't match the South Dakota Constitution, doesn't match the United States Constitution, and doesn't go along with our party platform and our values. The answer is yes, I'll vote yes. That's how I'll vote. We're a representative republic. If you think that's how you would like to be represented, please vote Dylan Jordan. Thank you.
Candidate Cole.
I got the honor to serve in our military for several years. For 9 years, I was an intel officer for the Air Force. I've been to Iraq. I've been to Afghanistan. I've been to other places that I can't even mention. And after 9 years, I came back here because, number one, I'm a farmer, and farming is in my blood, and this is where I wanted to be. But about 7 years ago, something changed me forever, and I'll never go back. 7 years ago in Watertown, my daughter was born, and holding my daughter changed my perspective. It clarified things. My goal is to make sure that our state remains great for our children. I'm going to be fighting for farmers and ranchers. I'm going to be fighting for education because education is so important to our kids. And I'm going to be fighting for rural communities because we have great rural communities in District 4. And without good shepherding and without a little bit of work and looking ahead, we're going to lose them. They're going to get to the point where they can't sustain themselves anymore. I'd encourage you to vote for me. Thank you.
Representative Rowe.
Yeah, it's been a real honor here to serve the past 2 years, and I think on balance we did a lot of good. We lost a little, we gained a little, but on balance we did pretty good. I'm not a politician. I'm a farm kid from southeast of Hazel. If anybody knows where that is, I'll stump you further yet. I live near Thomas. I grew up on a farm. I lived for 3 years in Minneapolis, lived for 9 years in Wisconsin. Got a lot of life experience that I can bring. I've been an extremely small businessman working on 4 different businesses at one time. So I don't know how you divide that down. Anyways, they didn't all make it, unfortunately. I'm going to continue my work for District 4. We need good policy. We need hands-off government. We need to develop a competitive nature for our entire state, put those policies out for different municipalities or counties to take advantage of. I'm going to keep working on conservation issues, which are important. Wasn't expecting that question tonight. Going to keep working on economic policy. You know, we lose a lot of kids. They just cross that state line and they can make more money. We need to stop the brain drain. We need to provide economic opportunity here that's equal to the rest of the nation.
Well, that concludes our District 4 House forum. Not all questions were asked. Stay tuned. We may hear some different questions in the next 2 forums. Otherwise, everybody would have already heard all the answers to these fine folks. One of the things about running for office is being an elected official, is being in the public square, and that's both good and bad, as all these folks keep talking. One of the things we ought to do is we ought to express our gratitude to all 5. And we have 5 candidates to pick from in this Republican primary, and we are thankful. So my hat's off to all of you. Thank you. And best of luck.
Thank you.
candidate, Republican primary candidate for. Same rules apply, which they all have, in which I covered a few minutes ago. Anybody new, if you have silence your phone, do so. Please stay on topic on the questions. We'll move along. We'll hear some of the same questions and we'll hear a couple new ones, just so they can during the exam on the first one. So keep them on their toes. A couple of the questions I think a couple of the last candidates wanted to ask. So maybe we'll get to some of those. And following that, we'll have the District 5 Senate forum as well. First off, to the candidates, any questions for me on the procedures or anything? Okay. We'll begin with a candidate introduction. We'll begin on my left with the letter B, candidate Begalka. Introduce yourself to the District 4 voters.
Good evening, everyone. Whoops. Maybe I shouldn't have touched it, huh? Oh, there's one. Okay, how's that? Is that better? Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Tim Begalka, born and raised in Clear Lake. I'm a fifth generation Begalka from Dual County. I own and operate Stodak Gardens, which is a greenhouse and nursery just south of town. This is by far my busiest season. This is my harvest, so to speak. These a couple months here when I make all my money, if I do. You won't see me out going door to door because I just don't have time. I've been to candidate forums, I've been to church, and I've been to work in the last month, and that's about it. My wife Rhonda is originally from Watertown. She's a preschool aide at Dual School in Clear Lake. We have 5 children. 3 are grown and gone, but they all live in South Dakota, including 6 grandchildren. Our youngest 2 sons both go to Dakota State in Madison. They're both majoring in education and hope to come or stay home and be teachers one day. I was in the House for 4 years in Pierre and the Senate for 4 years as well. I have a proud record of being a conservative Republican, and my record shows it. Look it up. All my votes, maybe 1 or 2 I wish I would have changed, but anyway, thank you. Bye-bye for now.
Senator Sauder, your opening remarks.
Thank you.
Introduce yourself to the District 4 voters.
Good evening. I am the incumbent Senator Stephanie Sauder. I am from Bryant. My husband and I have 2 sons who are both in law enforcement, and we have 1 grandson. And I'm also a 5th generation Hamlin County resident. I was a K-12 public school teacher for 30 years, and then I was a owner and publisher of the New York Times. No, no way. The Bryant Dakota newspaper, and my husband and I are still involved in farming. I served as mayor for the town of Bryant for 8 years, and I was on the charter board of directors for the Bryant Theater, and I still volunteer there. I'm also a member of the Bryant Legion and Parkview Assisted Living Auxiliaries, and I'm the piano player at my church. During my term in the Senate, I successfully sponsored bills that supported our teachers and schools and education. I advocated for the elderly and the vulnerable. And I work diligently for South Dakota farmers and families to help increase and ensure greater affordability. I'm running for the Senate again because people depend on me to continue fighting for agriculture, education, and for creating a strong economy that keeps our children and grandchildren in the state. Thank you.
Great. Steph, you get the first question. Stephanie, Senator. It's the same question I started off with last time. I'm not going to give any examples. But I'm interested in your philosophy on local control versus state mandates or state control, however you want to describe that. And what's better done locally by city, schools, and counties, and what's better done by the state, and your role and where one steps on the other one in a bad fashion.
Yes, that's a good question. We had quite a few bills this year in front of especially the Senate Education. I serve on that committee where there were a few times, more than what we should have had, people coming and asking us to be the school board, to make decisions about school board issues, not across the state, but from a few certain schools. And that's not our job. People who are disgruntled with their school board should go to the school boards and either re-elect or accept their answers if you're not happy with them. if the majority of them vote that way. So especially with schools, as much as possible, there's a school, you have an elected school board, let them do their job. As far as municipalities and county commissions and everything, I really push for that at all, if at all possible, because especially on many of our decisions that we've made in peer, we've given the counties and the municipalities the tools to make those decisions. When it comes to the state, when we have different rules and obligations across the board, that's when it becomes a state issue, and we have to look at it when it pertains to the majority of the state and the counties. The school, it was mentioned before, schools, our curriculum and things like that, that needs to be settled at the state level. So when families move from one county to another, one school to another, they're all on that equal playing field.
Candidate Tim, your thoughts on local control and state?
Thank you. Generally, I'm all in favor of local control. The lower the on the rung, the jurisdiction, the better. Such as the cell phones in schools, cameras in the municipality, those should be local issues along with many others. There are just a few things really that the state should be involved in, such as law enforcement. Laws need to be fairly the same across the state. Security issues, just like we look to Washington, and one of their only real legitimate reasons for being is national security, national defense. And the states should have more rights, and the localities should have more rights, and I believe in local control. So thank you.
Okay. Tim, question number 2 comes to you. It's an economic development issue, and it's a lot of other things. I categorize it into the general because it's a topic we talk about every election. I'll bet you for going back for a long time. It's teacher pay. Yesterday, reports in South Dakota ranks number 46 in the country in teacher pay. We're at the bottom in the Midwest, the states that surround us. It's not close. A friend of mine whose wife is a teacher notes in the Sioux Falls district, the average teacher pay is $60,000. The average administrator's pay, not the superintendent, the administrator's pay is $146,000. So following on the last question, is this a local problem or a state problem? And if you're elected, what would you do to help resolve teacher pay?
Okay, it's more of a local issue. And in the last panel, it was brought up about the sales tax. And actually, the reason we went from 4 to 4.5 was to raise teacher pay and mandate a minimum teacher pay across the state. And then there was a caveat in there that says once we get X number of dollars from internet sales, we should drop it back to 4.2. So it really didn't have anything to do with groceries, I don't think. But anyway, we may be 46th in teacher pay, but if we look across the board at every and any other industry job, we're probably similar. You got to compare apples to apples. In a lot of our small school districts, the teachers are some of the best paid people in that entire school district. And there definitely is a disparity between all the administration and the teachers. If some of that money could be maybe not given to administrators, and some of these districts have a ridiculous number of administrators, I feel. It should be redistributed a little bit. I really don't think teacher pay per se in South Dakota is that bad. My boys, when they year or two, when they start their first job as a teacher at age 22, they will be making more a year than I ever have in my entire life as a small businessman. So it's, depends on how you look at it. Thank you.
Senator Sauder.
Having been a teacher, teacher pay has been on my mind for many, many, many years. And we've always negotiated for more money. And it's just been one of those constants that we never get away from. Was it this last year or the year before, we actually did have a bill before the Senate Education that would cap superintendent pay. And I asked the sponsor of that bill, I was very interested in why she brought that and how many of her constituents or who had brought that bill. And she said to me, I just woke up one morning and thought, you know what? I think they get too much money. Maybe we should cap that. What an irresponsible reason to bring that. That is a local concern. And if the schools, if each local district thinks their superintendent or their administration of some sort makes too much money, that's their decision. That's not a state decision. That is a local decision. I I'd like to see our teacher pay go up, similar to what Mr. Begalka said that I heard today what the average state payment, the average teacher gets paid in our state. And with my master's degree, when I stopped teaching, I didn't make that much. So I'm glad it's going up, but we need to keep working on that. I'd like to see some of this. If we could get sales tax on certain things, not raise them, but different businesses that come in, we could maybe get a raise in our teachers' pay.
All right. We go back to Senator Sauder. What bills do you plan on bringing back in 2027 if you're elected? And how will those bills help your District 4 voters?
Oh, thank you for asking that question. In fact, I'm working on one right now. The bill that, I'm sorry, I don't remember the number, but it would require licensing for private home health, non-medical home health care. Many of our elderly would prefer to stay in their homes as long as possible instead of going to an assisted living or a nursing home. And our private companies and agencies are not licensed. This passed through the House, it passed through the Senate, it got all the way to the governor's desk, and he vetoed it. And so we're trying to rework it. Some thought it was in the wrong department. And so we're trying to fix that right now. So that's my priority right now, is to take care of our elderly and the most vulnerable so they can, and their families, so they can stay in their own homes.
Since you were in the legislature this last few years, is there a bill that failed that you want to see come back in 2027 that you may or may not have written?
Nothing comes.
That's right.
There's other ones, but yeah, and anything that we can promote our education or help our rural economy, I guess I'd like to see those come back.
Okay. Tim, your thoughts on a little bit different question?
Yeah.
You got anything you're going to carry for 2027 that's eating at you that'll help the District 4 voters?
Honestly, no. I'm not running to bring any particular legislation. I haven't really given that much thought. You take a lot of votes in peer. There's always a lot of bills. And one of my goals is not only to pass bills that I think are good, is to kill bills that I think are bad. One bill I can think of last year, I will bring up, that I thought was a good bill. For instance, I'm a businessman. I got a U plate on a trailer that I use to haul my skid loader or tractor now and then. I had to pay that license one time, and that trailer is good forever. But if I have a little fish house or a little trailer where I haul on, or maybe once or twice a year, I pay way more. I have to license that bugger every single year, and it's like $45, $50, and some of those trailers are barely worth that much. To me, that doesn't make any sense. You should have a lifetime license on a private trailer, maybe under a certain weight limit or something, but I really don't think it's fair the way it is right now.
Okay. Back to you, Tim. We're switching subjects to taxes. The question I asked in the last session, so if you were here, you heard it. Given this movement to have the people of South Dakota refer Senate Bill 245 to a vote of the people, do you support using the temporary sales tax reduction for property tax relief for owner-occupied homes? Yes or no?
I believe I would vote yes on that. To use it for property tax reduction, yes.
You would?
Yes.
And Senator Sauder, would you vote again for SB 45?
No, I didn't vote for it the
I'm
first
sorry.
time. That's okay. No, I didn't vote for it the first time this last session because number one, it was getting rammed and jammed through too fast at the very end, and we have one more year to be able to discuss that. So I think we should have taken the time to do that. I would like to see that money go back into education because education is so important and we're lacking there, and it was just too quick, and we need to talk about it more.
You've answered part of the follow-up, which is what would you have done with the money?
Yeah.
But it was clear the legislature would not sunset that. They wouldn't reduce it to 4.2. So I'm curious, what is the odds of a bill to dedicate that extra 0.3%, going towards education as you'd like? What are the odds?
You know, that's going to be determined by who's elected. We're going to have a large turnover in the legislature this year just because everybody's, it's a jump ball for everybody. We'll have new executives and new governor and stuff like that, or maybe the same one will come back, but it will not be the same set of legislators. And so that'll be interesting. I really can't call that.
Okay. Economic development, we're switching step back to you. What state do you think, and it can't be South Dakota, is doing the best job on economic development and why? Or if you'd like to not answer that question, what's a perfect economic development process for the state of South Dakota to use? Or do you oppose all economic development efforts? Pick your
Well, I don't oppose all economic development, that's for sure. To say which state is doing the best, I really can't. I haven't studied all of them, so I really don't know. Our neighbors are to the north are doing pretty good. They have a different tax structure than we do, so it's not an apples to apples situation. Any economic development attraction that we can provide, to give our counties or municipalities, even the state, the tools that we can give them to bring these economic development businesses or whatever in, even by increasing our classes, like at LATC, 81% of the students that graduate from LATC stay here in South Dakota, and that's just wonderful. And I think if we can continue providing the workforce, I truly believe that the economic development, the businesses will come to the workforce.
A follow-up with you in a minute to answer. Wind towers are all over D4, and I just noticed that Cottington County and the Waverly School District and some of the school districts in the county just are splitting up I think it's 1.2 million in property tax dollars that these wind farms provide, which is a great move. Waverly's adding on to their school, as you well know. My question is, do you support the wind farm, wind turbine business that's going on currently in your district, and would you support more?
Going back to local control, I think that is a local control situation there. If that group, if the county, the voters want that, then I totally support them in that. When wind towers were first developed and put up here, it was decided that the schools would get all that money, and then after a while, I think the state realized, ooh, that's a lot of money coming in. And so the schools didn't get the full cut. And I wish I'd like to see that come back. I think Representative Rowe brought that bill, and I'd like to see that bill come back where the schools get that money back like it was intended.
Great. Tim, I'll give you the same follow-up. Answer the first question, 2 minutes. If you were to pick a state that you think does economic development right, who would that be? And or if you could design a perfect economic development tool for the state of South Dakota that you could support, what would that be?
Well, the first question, I guess I'm kind of like Steph. I haven't followed or studied other states well enough to really give a good answer to that. As far as economic development, when you look at District 4 in Deuel County, and our unemployment is virtually zero. There really isn't anybody that really wants to work that doesn't have a job. Lots of businesses are hiring or would hire if the right person came along. They'd be glad to expand. We don't really need big businesses from out of state or from some international company to build some huge thing in Dual County or anywhere else in District 4 that would draw workers away from businesses that are already there. I would go the opposite direction and try to encourage our young people to stay here and work in the businesses that are here and focus the economic development on things we really need and want.
Talk about the wind towers in our District 4. Good, bad, the 1.2 million that Covington County's giving up.
I mean, it is good in a sense. The tax benefits are good. I guess if a landowner wants it and they're willing to have it on their land, some people obviously are a little tired of them. We do have 3 different wind farms in our school district in Dual, and there's a 4th one apparently on the way, which some people are getting a bit thinking that's enough. Aesthetically, they're not the greatest. And as Steph alluded to, the local school district like Waverly or whoever, they only get the big benefit for about 5 years, and it gradually goes down, and then the whole state shares in the tax benefits. So,
okay, lightning round question, Tim. You get to start. This is a yes or no. In the last year, as part of your campaign, have you met with any local chamber execs, development people in Millbank, Watertown, Clear Lake, and found out what's on their plate?
Well, I just decided to run about a week before the deadline, so
I'll take.
I will say Clear Lake, yes, because I work with a couple of people I am on the local Chamber of Commerce board, so Clear Lake only. Unless they've come to talk to me at my business,
right.
No.
Senator Sauder, have you met with any chamber economic development folks in the district?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about ethanol. We start with Stephanie. It's huge, as we heard last session about the District 4, 2 large production facilities here in Watertown and Millbank. Everywhere you go, people are planting corn, and ideally, many of those people planting corn are investors in the plant. So hopefully they're making a little on the value added side too. It's a really big deal. And yet it's under pressure. We can't seem to get E15 approved nationally. We heard that and I'm just curious, as I drive around the Midwest and see E88 and E15 all over, it's missing in South Dakota. And I heard at the last forum, it should be E30, and I'm not opposed to that either. What can you do as a state senator to help the ethanol industry, which is huge in your district?
Yes, and I'm a big proponent of ethanol. My family are corn farmers. My neighbors are corn farmers. Gia Lee, especially, and Poet in Millbank, they contribute so much to our district and to the economy of our whole state. Actually, I don't know why E15 is not being passed. I know there's when I was in the House, we had 2-3 bills come through that really promoted E15 and ethanol itself. Talking about blender pumps and everything. I was total proponent with those. Probably even sponsored those. We do need to do more research of other states and why is it working for them? How are they making it work? I think we need to be in partnership with our congressional delegation to see what we can do with that. And depending on who gets into being the governor next year, in June or November, I think that will help as well. We can move forward with that, but getting past the EPA rules and working with the federal government, I think, is the key. But there's going to have to be some research on how the other states do it.
Tim, your thoughts on ethanol and what we can do for your industry in your district?
Okay. The 2 gas stations in Clear Lake both have pumps where I can get E10, E15, E30, E85. I've always used it. I continue to do so. My wife has a newer car. She uses the E85 almost exclusively. So I don't really know what more we can do. They seem to be doing well and profiting well, and they're putting out a good product. So we continue to use it. Shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. This one goes to Tim. Data centers has been a big issue in the legislature last year, happens to be an issue in District 4 for a while as well. We passed the data center Bill of Rights bill that was passed. Are you satisfied with that bill? And do you support a data center in District 4 or in the state of South Dakota?
Okay, the data center bill of rights was probably a good thing. I believe it addressed electrical usage and the fact that it hopefully would not raise our rates. I'm probably not in favor of a data center in District 4 for the simple reason that I would guess 95% of the people are against it. Particularly the people in the Toronto, Brant, Story area overwhelmingly. And there are a lot of the people that asked me to run and thanked me for running because of that particular issue, to be honest with you. The noise, the constant glare, the more people around, the usage on the roads, the massive building, the taking up of farmland. Then there's going to probably be more power lines, another power generation plant, and to give a huge, I mean, we're talking about some of the biggest, wealthiest companies in the entire world are this tech industry. Why would we give them tax breaks? We talk about, there's umpteen tax breaks already in South Dakota. Well, the vast majority of those are for agriculture. Should we take those away instead? I mean, I don't get it. Okay, in South Dakota,
Yeah.
Certainly. In Sully County, there is a smaller one that the school district and supposedly the people there like it. There are remote areas in South Dakota that perhaps would welcome at least a smaller data center. These huge ones, they scare me. What happens 10 years down the road when they're obsolete, or like Elon Musk said, we can move them to a satellite orbiting the Earth. You don't have to worry about them. Or if Texas wants them that bad, they can have them.
Okay.
So,
Steph.
Yes, I am definitely for data centers. We tried to implement tools that the local counties, municipalities could use if they chose to put one in their district. We were not mandating data centers. We were trying to, again, give tools to those who choose to have them. A lot has been said about revenue. A lot has been said about, all the hype and hysteria around a data center. And I'm disappointed that so many people believe in that misinformation. I'm going to go aside from the revenue. I'm not even going to go down that road. Data centers for me it's an issue of security. We passed a bill, and I helped sponsor that bill, that does not allow foreign companies to own, or foreign countries to own land in South Dakota. That's a very good bill. We shouldn't have that here. So why are people so opposed to having data centers here that keep our information here instead of sending those to China? Because believe me, that's where they're going. And for those who don't like AI, I'm sorry, but it's here. Just like electricity. 90 years ago, there were people who didn't want electricity. Now we can't live without it. AI is here. Data centers are here. Data centers would, yes, generate a lot of revenue for us, but for that matter, cybersecurity. We have one of the top cyber schools in our nation right down the road at Dakota State, my alma mater, and where his boys are going to go to school. They could help us with this. This is their wheelhouse, but yet we're saying, nope, you're not smart enough. Nope, we don't want to keep your job here. We want you to go somewhere else. They're going to be in the United States, as far as I'm concerned, and they might as well be here. But it's the choice of the local people, and the state should give them the tools to choose that.
Okay, kind of a whimsical final question. Not whimsical, it's very important, but I don't understand it. So I'm going to ask the two of you to help explain it to me. One of the candidates running for a statewide office, which I don't name, is suggesting we eliminate property taxes. First off, can we do that? And then secondly, do you support that? And finally, this goes to you first, Steph. How do we do that?
Number one, is it possible? I suppose it could be. Nothing's impossible. Do I support it in in the way it's being presented right now? No, I do not. Just because, to the third part, how are we going to do that? I guess I would support having no property tax. I don't want a tax. I don't have to want to pay any more than I have to. But property taxes are essential to our counties. If we don't have a property tax, then how are we going to pay for our roads? How are we going to pay for the people who work in the courthouse? How are we going to give that money back to the schools? How are we going to do that? And that answer has not come forth yet. So no, I'm not for it in the form that it's being presented until I can find a solid, non-tax shifting solution to that. It's not going to work.
Candidate Tim, your thoughts on that, eliminating property tax?
Right. I mean, it sounds good. I would definitely listen to it, think about it, but it is tough because property taxes stay locally. They're the major funder of your schools, your county, your townships, etc. But property taxes in general, my philosophy, they really aren't very ethical because once you buy something, you should own it and not have to pay rent to the state every year. Otherwise, they'll take it away. So from that philosophy, I don't really buy it. And I would like to see somehow gradually reduce property taxes. And that's why I asked yes to that previous question. What that extra 0.3% sales tax would go for would be property tax reduction. And that's why I kind of like that, because hopefully it'll reduce some property taxes, because I pay mine every year, and the darn thing goes up every year. Even though we've got wind towers in Dual County and we've got development, this and that, it seems to have gone up every year, no matter what. But you're going to have to shift some taxes. Maybe sales tax will have to raise. The candidate you talked about, he does have some ideas. I don't know how specific he's been. He's talking about some outside revenue, maybe tap some sources like large trusts, etc., real estate transactions, etc. It might not be easy, but I guess I'd have an open mind and look into it. At least listen.
Okay. With that, we're at the end. It's time for closing remarks. We'll do a minute and a half since we've done very well and been very efficient. So if you would you tell the candidates of P4 why they should vote for you on June 2nd in the Republican primary? We start, I think, with Tim.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you all for being here. This is a good turnout, and thanks for being on TV, etc. The other night in Goodwin, we had Goodwin at the forum. We had an interesting question. It talks about, would you support or pledge to support the South Dakota Republican platform? And I said yes. And I thought back to when my son was looking up, trying to put good things on my website, and he found out that for a couple of years in the Senate, apparently I had the best score on supporting the Republican platform. And I didn't even remember that. And it wasn't something I had done intentionally. I mean, I haven't honestly read it in years, but I kind of know what's in there. And that's the kind of voter I will be in Pierre. I will support things like that are in the state Republican platform, things like limited government, local control, states' rights, being pro-life, being pro-gun, being pro-family, stand up for property rights, stand up for individual freedom, try to keep taxes low, and try to keep government efficient. And those are the kind of things that it was just a coincidence that I actually voted better in that 2 years in the Senate than anybody else there. I don't have a copy with me like Fred does, but that's how I would vote. And you can take it to the bank. I will be there for you for District 4, for the people in this district. Thank you.
Your closing comments, Representative Stahl.
Again, thank you for this forum this evening. I always enjoy being part of this. This makes me think, and it gets my message out as well. It's been my honor to be out in the legislature, first for a term in the House and now for a term in the Senate. And I like to believe that a vote for me is like voting for most people. It's like voting for anybody else in District 4 for the most part. The majority of us have similar life experiences, such as farmers, teachers, small business owners, parents, grandparents. My record from the past 4 years shows that I focus on and fight for the real issues that are such as affordability for our families, the rural economy, education, and safety. I have gained the respect of my peers and the voters by I show up every day and because I'm ready and willing to learn and listen before making decisions that affect us all today, but especially the decisions that will affect our futures and the futures of our children and grandchildren. I've proven that I bring a true South Dakotan common sense and accountability to the Senate, and I'll remain straightforward, honest, and focused on what really matters to District 4. Again, excluding the hype and the hysteria that sometimes lends itself to lead the legislation, and that's not right, not in our state. It again will be my honor to continue serving District 4 in the state Senate. And I thank you for your vote, and I thank you again for this evening.
Well, there we are. We're done with two of the three. This is your District 4 Senate candidates for the Republican primary. As I stated in the first one, we need to thank these folks for running. It's not easy being in the public square. They'll tell you that. I'll tell you that. I've run a paper for a few years. But I want to thank them both for running. I want to thank you all to help me thank them for running and wish them the best of luck come June 2nd. We'll take the problems of the meeting with your moderator. We're now down at District 4, so we'll focus in on District 5, which was pretty much the city of Watertown and a couple of townships surrounding Watertown. I'd again ask you to silence your phones if you haven't. This will be our final forum. We'll follow the same format. I reviewed the rules with the first set of folks, and I don't need to do that if these two acknowledge that they got our email. And remember that I might ask a couple of yes/no questions that are yes/no, and which was not in the rules, and encourage you to stay on the topic so I don't have to cry foul. Okay, so with that, we're going to begin. If there's no other questions from two candidates. All right. First thing we'll do is we're going to have our candidates introduce themselves. And they've got a minute to do that, and we'll begin with candidate Representative Garcia.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for all being present and those online. I'm Representative Josephine Garcia, running for District 5. I am a constitutional Republican, and I here represent you, the people. That's my only agenda and objective. So, thank you.
Senator Vilhauer, your opening comments.
There we go. First of all, thank everybody for being here tonight. I want to thank the Chamber for hosting this and the Goss for letting us use the facilities. I am the current senator for District 5. I am a retired CPA with the emphasis on the retired portion. I have lived in Watertown for 45 years. I'm a lifelong South Dakotan, and my wife and I have a burial plot that's stone out Mount Hope Cemetery, so this is a permanent spot for us as well. I've got a track record of service that goes back to my teenage years. I was in the South Dakota Army National Guard for 10 years. For those of you that have been around Watertown, I was on the city council for 8 years. I served on the hospital board of directors for 10 years. I've been through all the chamber seats, including the president's position. So I've got a track record of service in this community and to this state. I love this state. I love Watertown. Very simply, that's why I am running, because I want to give back to the state that has treated myself and my family so well.
Great. Let's go to our first question. It'll be under the general topic. We'll start with Glenn. Glenn, tell me, what are the three biggest issues facing Watertown? Not the state of South Dakota, not the United States. What are the three biggest issues that you're hearing from your constituents and voters in District 5?
Well, that's a tough one, Mark. I would say, and going back to my city council days too, Lake Kempeska flood mitigation control, that is definitely an issue that here in Watertown or in this area. Affordability. You know, we want to talk about property taxes, yes, but I think it's a broader issue, and that's affordability of our residents in general. Because you start talking about property taxes, insurance, medical expense, etc. It all is rolled into one. As far as what I would call affordability is a huge issue. And I guess I would also probably lump into that. We look at the Glacial Lakes Energy here, for example, and the importance of that to Watertown. I think overall economic development, as it relates to how we can utilize Lake Area Tech College here in Watertown, is something that is definitely a factor that I think is on a lot of people's minds, or should be on a lot of people's minds.
Representative Garcia, what are the three biggest issues facing Watertown that you're hearing from the community?
I've been hearing about, for sure, property tax. I say that takes number one. Public safety is another one. Also, cost of living. People are working multiple jobs to make ends meet. So the cost of jobs, they're just not getting paid, not meeting the match of the demand of inflation.
Okay, next question goes to Representative Garcia. A similar question as I asked Representative Jordan from Rotary. You're a member of the Freedom Caucus, isn't that correct?
Yes, I am.
As was noted with Jordan, a recent opinion column pointed out that you were 3 for 8 as a bill sponsor. I'm curious, with a record like that, and on the topic of effectiveness, how should the voters of D5 rate your effectiveness as a legislator?
A+. A+. do you want me to expand on that?
You got 2 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Well, because I was for medical freedom, some of my bills were the toughest bills that were on the House floor. Several missed by 1 or 2 votes. So to be fair, if you look at the quality of the bill, I think they were excellent bills, especially my one for the electricians getting an electrician card. That's one that comes to mind. My e-verifying for unauthorized illegal immigration. That was another big one. Organ donors missed by 1, which is already in the court law. So that was just helping the judges. We had attorneys in the House that should have gone for it. They didn't. So my bills, I think, were very strong, and they should be proud of what I presented.
Follow-up question.
Sure.
What are you going to bring back if you're elected as our District 5 senator that will help our district, your district?
I think that's a game changer coming out of the House to the Senate. I think it's a big step up in a different way. I think after what I've experienced for the last 2 sessions, I've learned a tremendous amount of how it all works. And I think that's a big question. I will always be for medical freedom. I will be always for the people. And that's where I will continue to maintain and drive forward.
Different question, Senator Vilhauer. It's easy to blame people, and the question is a blame question, but that's not really my intent. Who's responsible for the printing of the late ballots for early voting across the state? Is it the legislature? Is it the Secretary of State? Is it the auditors? Where does the fix need to come from, and who do we blame?
Excellent question. And we, with the late advent of early voting, that's the first time it really got dug into. But now, in talking to state auditors auditors involved in this, there's a combination of blame out there. I think the legislature a year ago had the opportunity to fix this, didn't act on it. And in spite of that, I think had the Secretary of State being aware that the fix did not get made, I think that in and of itself is partially to blame, that this should have been addressed more fully sooner. But it's a combination of things that, unfortunate, it's going to turn out okay in the end, but it is unfortunate that it delayed things in the process.
Third question, back to Glenn. I asked this to all the other prior 2, and it's a local control versus state. Where do you draw the line? And I'm curious to understand where you draw the line as to what's a local issue, cities, you were on the council. Was the state ever meddling in your business? And then what does the state need to do?
One of my biggest frustrations in my 2 years in the legislature has been how the state has tried to exert itself or exert its influence over matters that should be left to the decision of school boards, city councils, county commissioners. It used to drive me crazy when I'd see bills come forward that would start again to take away local control. Now, yes, there are some things that do need some state oversight, when it comes to licensure of various things across the state. Some of the overarching broad issues, yes, need some state oversight, but by and large, very few things should not be left to local decision makers who best know the entities that they are representing and the people that they're representing.
Follow-up, can you give us an example, maybe of where it exerted it to the state was trying to usurp local control?
A couple examples, Mark. There were, I think, 3 different bills that came out this past year that would have tied school boards' hands relative to opt-out decisions relative to property taxes. That was one. Another one that goes back to a year ago, and it was referenced earlier in one of the other discussions, had to do with dictating the amount of superintendent salaries that school districts could pay to their administrators.
Okay. Representative Garcia, same question. Local control, where do you draw the line between that and state mandate, state control?
I think this is a great question, by the way. So the local control, I believe, should be left to the people. It's really for the power to the people, them to decide. The government or the state, as you mentioned, public safety, immigration, election laws, those should be left up to the state. The one bill that my opponent mentions, I'm going to specifically say is Senate Bill 85. That bill would have given power to the people, stopped the levying of the taxes, and given an opportunity to lower the property taxes through what it was trying to do. I voted for it. He voted against it. So that's one specific example I'd like to answer that question to give you.
Both of you voted for, this one goes to you.
Okay.
Both of you voted for, if I'm not mistaken, the bill to authorize a new trade center. I think, Glenn, you might have been a sponsor on that bill for the Lake Area Technical College. Is that correct?
I was a sponsor on the Senate side, yes.
Okay. It was a House Bill, H 1202. It failed. And there's nothing worse than us not supporting our great technical college. As a state senator next year, you'll get a chance possibly to bring that back. Will you do so? And how will you get that bill through the system?
The best we can do for this local community is educate everybody and giving kids the opportunity to go to school. So I would bring it back. However, I would probably put a few things in there to make sure things are achieved. It was for the HVAC. I'd like to see those certifications. I'd like to see where they can go out into the world and get the real jobs, not just have the program, but make sure that at the end they have the internships, they have the apprenticeships, and they are qualified and they're good no matter where they go. Whether they stay here, hopefully they will, and it will bring bigger companies, and that will increase the economic development, as you have spoken so well tonight of. But I think there has to be a few other things in the bill. It's a shame it didn't pass. However, there is always next year.
Glenn, your thoughts on 1202?
Yeah, so very disappointed we cannot get that across the finish line. I got to hand it to Representative Roby sitting out in the audience. He fought diligently to try to get that out of the House, was not successful. What I'm really hoping is a couple different things. One is that when the governor, whoever the governor is, presents their budget in December, that item is specifically delineated as something that the governor's supporting. That was not the case this last year. So we were kind of starting from scratch as far as bringing that bill forward. So one, I hope the governor presents it as part of the budget. And secondly, that we all everybody around this area especially get behind this bill because listening to the at the governor's lunch the other day, just how critical Lake Area Tech is and the gem that we've got with that institution, not only for this Watertown, but the upper Midwest in general. It's critical that we support anything that we can do to help Lake Area Tech.
Okay. I think this one now goes back to you. And we kind of touched on already, we're in the economic development series of questions, and this is a lightning round question. So as a D5 elected official, both of you last year, and then running for the Senate this year, economic development has been a big topic, will continue to be a big topic. I'm curious, Representative Garcia, have you met in the last few months with our Watertown Development Company executive and or the Chamber of Commerce in the last few months?
Does internet like Zoom count? Because that's potentially legally it is, right? I have.
Glenn, yes or no?
Yes, several times.
Okay. It's clear that Watertown has an employment issue. This goes to you, Glenn. It shows up in not having enough workers. As you heard probably in the last debate, if you were here, one candidate thought we don't need any new businesses because we can't find enough workers. There's another solution: grow the workplace. If you support that idea of growing the workforce, how do you propose we do that? And in particular, I'm interested in a couple of ideas: training, support for Lake Area Technical College for local employers, and would you be willing to support relocation assistance for workers and their families?
The second one is tough. I guess depends upon what types of jobs we're looking at the relocation being for. I think some critical ones, yes, might be warranted. But in general, overall, growing the workforce is critical. And that gets back to the whole affordability issue. There's so many factors that come into play there that Growing the workforce is one. Workforce housing is another. We want to reduce property taxes. We want to increase sales taxes. Those all roll into one segment, and that is affordability. And to do that, we need to grow our base. And that all happens. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. But by growing our base, we tend to solve the things that I just mentioned that you alluded to, Mark.
Okay. Representative Garcia.
Would you mind repeating your
Sure.
point of that question?
We're talking about the workforce development in Watertown and
Right.
employment issues, which are huge. And I'm wondering what you are willing to do as our state senator to help resolve or improve our ability to recruit workers. And specifically, I was wondering about training for new employees through Lake Area Technical College, which happens today, and relocation assistance for workers and their families, housing.
So I have three businesses, so I know how hard it is to keep workers and to get workers. So I think the biggest thing I hear from my young workers is that the training. You're absolutely right. There needs to be training and transition. I've always said that the healthcare is the biggest industry you have here. I'm going to be biased and say that's what it is because everyone needs good health. Lake Area Tech has a very big nursing program, and the training and the preceptorships could improve if we would get alliances and have them in the facilities to learn all aspects of it. So I think there is room for improvement everywhere. So I would say that would be one area of Lake Area. Welding is another one. I think is a big industry. Welding. My son went to Lake Area and graduated welding, but there wasn't a lot of apprenticeships. So I think there has to be something looked at the overall success rate of that. When you say bringing families and relocating, there are a lot of families here that would work had the right opportunity happened. I don't know where that breakdown is. I couldn't answer that question particularly for you, but I do think every job has to have some form of a apprenticeship. Yes.
Okay, I think we go back to you for the next question. D5, as we discussed in the prior two session, is home to one of the largest ethanol producers in town. They aren't going to get a pipeline. That's done. What are you going to do as their state senator to help their business grow and prosper, as well as supporting all the farmers in the adjacent counties selling corn?
So we're talking about the pipeline itself?
No, I'm talking about the ethanol plant.
Okay, so last I heard, the ethanol plant's got to come another way instead of doing a pipeline, maybe through the trains. So I think that's a big topic of conversation that's just come out. So I think that they're going to do railroads and ship it that way. So I do think there's still conversation just ongoing right currently. So providing the biggest issue I had with the ethanol on the pipeline was not just our land, but the health risks. So I don't know if I'm answering your question
No,
or
you're
not.
not, because that.
Okay.
I'm wondering,
So you're
what
asking,
are you going to do to help that business grow now that they don't have that option?
I do think they have the option. I think they're just going to use another method.
Okay. Senator Vilhauer.
Mark, you're asking relative to how Glacial Lakes Energy in general expands their. You're referencing the E15, for example.
Exactly.
Okay. I don't know what the answer is because a lot of that is going to be dependent upon what happens at the federal level. But I think it's going to take a collaborative effort on the part of our legislature, the farmers around here, the Glacial Lakes Energy itself, working in harmony to try to put more pressure on our federal delegation to get something done. I think what's unfortunate is, to me, the carbon pipeline issue is dead. But I think what happened is, as a result of the several years that was debated, that put the whole process or slowed down the whole process that we could have been using to during that time to enhance the availability of different sorts of ethanol.
I'm curious if you would support the comment earlier about Nebraska is doing E30 in all state vehicles and those kind of initiatives that the state does have purview over. Would you see that as a benefit to helping promote and use ethanol in the state of South Dakota?
I believe in Watertown we do it. We utilize E30 in our vehicles. I have burned E30 in my vehicles, boy, for one of the first times it ever came out, and I'd be very much supportive of that.
Josephine.
Thank you. So the EPA just made a temporary lift for the E15, as you're talking about. So you're talking now the E30, the other gas. The problem is not every automobile can utilize that. So I think that's just a bigger question than what you're asking. How can you use it here in South? It's almost not possible to use it on every vehicle. So you could still have an option, right? People have a choice. It's what we're saying.
Would you support the state mandating all their vehicles to use an E15 or E30 blend?
Just that?
Yeah.
What would you do with the older cars? How would they be fueled? They couldn't take it.
Put a year on it then, 2002 and beyond.
I
How
don't
many
know.
state vehicles do you think are older than 2002?
I'm not sure of that because I'm not that type of professional, but I would say I would have to see it. But I'm just saying that these are hypothetical, so I just don't know if that's even a possibility to even use that for South Dakota, and especially the weather. I don't know if that would hold up.
Okay, let's move on to outdoors. You have the two, this goes to Glenn. You have the two lakes and the Big Sioux River in your district. And both have a problem with weeds that your constituents are contending with in zebra mussels. I'm curious to know if you think your South Dakota Game Fish and Parks and the Department of Ag and Natural Resources are doing an adequate job of combating them, number one, and two, finding efforts for us to deal with these problems in your two lakes.
I was disappointed. I would believe it was House Bill 1157, 1137, something like that. That would have done nothing more than provided some funding for a study of how to deal with zebra mussels. That was opposed by the Game Fish and Parks, I believe by the DNR as well. I wasn't part of that committee discussion. I don't know what the rationale was for opposing that, but I was disappointed that it did not move forward because that is something that is critical for this area in particular. But again, the zebra mussels have, every water area in the state is going to be infested by those in the very near future. So we can't ignore and hope it goes away. So yes, we need to address it. We need to do something. I don't know what that answer is, but it's a shame to see what is potentially going to happen to Lake Compesca here as those weeds grow back now that the water is clearer because the zebra mussels.
I'm curious, would you support modifications for the disposal of weeds? I had it from a good source that the Game Fish and Parks makes that quite onerous if we do remove weeds and disposing them in a manner that's appropriate.
I guess I don't know what the disposal requirements. You're catching me off guard with that question. I'm not sure what the disposal requirements would be. I would hope that it wouldn't be too onerous for someone that wants to take care of that, but I don't know what you're referring to, Mark.
Okay. Representative Garcia, zebra mussels, aquatic invasive species on Compesca, the weeds.
They're just a pest. You're absolutely right. And they're a big problem. I live on the lake, as you all know, and, what are my taxes paying for? I want some answers. Like, the weeds are terrible. The Lake Compesca has no outlet, and it goes only 12 feet deep. And when someone gets their jet ski or their boat stuck in that, what's going to happen? So if we're going to preserve just that one particular lake, then we need to do a better job. I think they need to come together and work together. There's plenty of funds there to do this. It's for the environment. It's for the people living there. It's for people to enjoy. It's tourism. It's people come out on the lakes. They won't do that if we cannot really give them what they come for. So I think it will hurt us economically, and I think that it is going to deteriorate. The lake will deteriorate, eventually become a swamp.
What would you suggest as a follow-up that the State Game Fish and Parks, which has a mandate to do something, and the Department of Ag and Natural Resources, which disclaims any ownership of this issue, could do to help our lake owners in your district?
Great question. The problem is accountability, and everyone wants to push it to the other person. No one wants to take accountability and work together. This is an environmental issue. This is for the people of Watertown and the visitors. I think that they just need to step it up. Now, my patients will probably not like me because they're Game Fish and Park people. However, the issue is the responsibility. They have an obligation, and it's in their responsibility to preserve. That's what they have. They have plenty of funding. Work together. That's the problem why we can't get things done. Work together and come with a plan that everyone can agree upon. We're going to have to make a compromise, but there has to be accountability for that as well.
Okay, let's shift to education. We stay with you, Representative Garcia.
Okay.
Earlier, we asked the same question, but South Dakota ranks number 46 with average teacher pay at 58.5. Nationally, that average is 27% higher at 74.5. As I noted, a friend whose wife is a teacher notes in Sioux Falls, the teacher pay is about 60,000, while the average for administrators in that district is 146. Two questions. Is this a local problem or a state problem? And as a state senator for District 5, what are you going to do about it, if anything?
Those are complex questions. I'm going to try to just take one at a time and answer quickly for you. It depends on where you are in the state. I would think on the teaching and the clientele, the students. So I would say that would be, it would be nice if you could, if you made it a state thing, then you'd be more unionized. So I don't think that would ever really happen. But I do think that it is local. I would say I would stick with local. In the Senate, I mean, the teachers, look, who gets paid enough? None of us get paid enough, right? So across the board, South Dakota is not like other states, though, like where I come from, that the teachers are of different caliber and the students are of different caliber. So it's a different thing. You have to look at where you live. So I would say for your first answer would be, yes, keep it local. The second one, what was your second one now? Because
well, the average of the administrators is nearly 3 times the teachers.
Okay, no one likes that. We're top heavy all the way around. We're top heavy in administration and healthcare. We're top heavy in schools. We have so many superintendents. So I'm more of the going to be responsible and say consolidate and trim it. I would say trim the cholesterol and the top and disperse accordingly. And that's the safest I can say to you.
Okay. Glenn, you get the next one. This one's right out of your alley because you're on appropriations. And I asked it earlier, but a candidate for a statewide office is suggesting we eliminate property taxes in his advertisements. As a legislature, do you know of a way to do that? Or is it a pipe dream? Or is it something we should consider and move on?
Well, I guess to answer the first question, I suppose it would be a possibility, realizing that you'd have to get a majority of 105 legislators to go along with that idea as well. So I guess it's a possibility, but what do you do beyond that? And that's where I have no idea what we would do to replace that revenue. You know, there's talk about, you know, massive waste within our budget. No, there is not. I sat through appropriations committee meetings all day, every day for the full 37 days of our session. We have a lean budget within the state, whether people want to believe that or not. We truly do. We've got dedicated, people working for our state within the state. So no, there is not the massive waste that is claimed to be in our state budget. We've got to replace that revenue somehow. And I don't know I have no idea what that would be short of implementing a state income tax in this state, which I would never support as a legislator.
Representative Garcia.
Same question?
Same question.
So I like the idea. I mean, everyone looks at Florida and says, oh, he did it there, but he has a huge state. DeSantis has a huge state, and tourism is big there, and there's this climate. So I see the point. I believe this candidate is thinking, and I think it's a valuable thing to look at, is the trust funds. We have the lowest amount of tax on the trust funds. People from billionaires from out of the country invest in South Dakota. We say that agriculture is our number one money-making thing for the state, but it really is the trust that we have with these outside entities that we could tax them. I think his idea is to go and tax them, and the amount of tax that he could get from that would then balance the actual property tax. The other part to that is I'm not for a state income tax. That's why most people move to the only 4 states we have left that don't have that. However, if you look at what you're paying in sales tax and what you pay in your house tax for a year, if you do the math, you're almost paying more in sales tax than for your property tax. So I think it's a moot point. I think that we do have an issue, but we have to look at all avenues. But we just cannot keep taxing the people out of their homes.
Let's stay on the taxing issue. I asked this at the other 2 forums with SB 245, which reduced or takes the 0.3% of sales tax and applies it to property tax relief. Did you support that, and did you enjoy supporting that bill, or were you opposed to it? Was it a great bill?
You know what? It actually was. It was the backbone to the SV 96 and House Bill 1326. And without that, we wouldn't have had the tax. So it is the backbone. And what that bill did do was give back 20% to the people in the next 6 to 12 months they will receive back. It also developed a fund which shuffled the money out of one fund to another where it's actually more controlled. And then the taxes actually benefit of that go back into the property tax to lower. So it actually was designed well. Yes, I was for it. The unfortunate thing, we had 29 tax bills, and this was the best we could do, these three. So, yes, I was.
Glenn, your thoughts on 245?
I voted against it for a number of different reasons. One, I didn't like the fact that we are it's a regressive, that extra 0.3%, it's a regressive tax. The shifting of $56 million from our general reserve, from our reserves to jumpstart this fund. As an appropriator, I had concerns about utilizing reserves to that extent. And again, I would have those with the most valuable piece of property would have seen the most benefit from this. So for any number of reasons, I voted against it. It'll be interesting to see what we as a people do as far as bringing that to a referendum in the near future.
What's your guesstimate as to whether that will get to the ballot and will it pass? 49% of South Dakotans are against it, according to a recent survey.
Is that directed to me?
Yeah.
I have some doubts that it will get to a ballot. I think if it were to get to a ballot, it would probably be defeated, or it would the referendum would probably pass.
Representative Garcia, your thoughts on the referendum and would it pass as a follow-up?
Oh, gosh. I'm sorry, my thing died here. It's like dead. That must be a note there to say.
We are near.
We're at the end here. Okay. That's 51% that want it, so I'm all for that.
Okay. Let me see. Okay. Final question. This is under the criminal reform. I asked it. HB 1212 puts a woman who has an abortion is criminally liable and could go to prison. Your thoughts on that bill, and is it something that we want to do here in South Dakota? It did get out of committee, but one of the representatives, the sponsors, was from our area, so I think it's a question worth asking. And that question goes to you, Glenn.
Bad bill. That is such a difficult decision that a woman is making, and then to potentially hold them criminally liable for probably one of the hardest decisions they have to make in their life. It's just crazy that bill was even brought forward.
Representative Garcia.
I've heard this question all night. I'm kind of appalled, being a female. I'm kind of appalled that it's so generalized. It is equal protection under the law if we're going to follow the Constitution. Murder is murder. And that is just how it was written. There are many levels to this bill, which seem to not be discussed. So it's automatically the woman will be a murderer. If you were there, heard the testimony, heard the recordings, you really felt for all these women that chose these abortions had they had known there was another avenue. I think the bigger question to ask is, what can we do to prevent the abortions and the incidences from happening? We don't have anything in place for these women at all, really. And as one of the former legislators had mentioned, our online sales of birth control pill is through the roof. So, as a medical provider, heartbeat starts at 5 weeks. So what do you do then? If it's only after the baby's born, not while the baby's in the womb, I think it's a tough one. And being a mother, it's a tough one.
Okay. We are at the end. We're going to begin our closing comments. I think we start with Representative Garcia.
Well, I want to thank you all. Although I can't see you, the lights are so bright here, but thank you for having me in the chamber and for you being the moderator and for Senator being here, because it was really interesting and the sound system is much better than last time. I am choosing to run for Senate for many reasons, but really I think the most important thing is for you, the people, because I've always been just for the people the whole time. I believe that in medicine we take an oath, and that is to do no harm and to always heal, try to heal. And our government needs healing. We need healing. I think up here tonight, you see the big contrast. I am for public service, but I'm not for public institutions or governmental institutions. And being a just pretty much, I just would say, an honest, open person, you come to your provider with your intimate details, and I will take those with me, your intimate points, concerns with me, and I will fight for you on that. So I would say that's who I am, just real. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not going to make false promises, but I will fight. And thank you for having me.
Glenn, your closing remarks.
First of all, again, thank you for being here tonight, folks. It's been an interesting conversation up here, without a doubt. I will say this, and I've said this publicly several times. I am not a politician. If someone is going to run a position like this and to better their resume or whatever it may be, they're in it for the wrong reason. I am out there as a public servant. And if you talk to fellow legislators that have gotten to know me, they will say I'm one of the hardest working, dedicated legislators out there, and I will continue to be that way. Like I said in my opening comments, I love this state. I love Watertown. We've got such a gem here within South Dakota. I don't think we realize how good we've got it, and we need to tweak some things here and there. Absolutely, I will agree with that. But I want to promise you that if and when I get back out to Pier, I will work hard to represent you, listen to you. I am tuned in. I go to school board meetings, council meetings, county commissioner meetings, or follow them on air. I know the pulse of the people of this area, and you're not going to go wrong by reelecting me to serve you out in Pier, because I understand you. I'm one of you, and I look forward to representing you. It's been a huge honor. So thank you, and I ask for your support on June 2nd.
Well, that ends our District 5 Senate race. Let's give them a round of applause. And thanks for both serving, as both of them have, and as wanting to serve again. That as well. That concludes our forum for this evening. Again, Watertown Treatment Commons brought this to you. You can thank them too. They don't need to do this, but it is a good thing that they do. So we thank you, Chamber, for that and its board of directors. With that, Ron, drive safe and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you very much.
Good
Yes, you too.
Thank you, Frank.